We did a huge garden expansion yesterday for our no-dig garden. I'll kind of walk back over here if you want to check it out. You'll see more of it, of course, today. But we got to work getting all that going. My goal this week is to get as many seeds in the ground as possible and as many beds prepared and ready to take off, because March, I can already tell it's not playing around. My name is Shelby. If you are new here, we've got no time to waste. Let's get started. I just accidentally dumped a whole seed packet of sunflowers out in my pocket. This is the Crazy Mix of sunflowers. It is very good. So I like to do a big mix of sunflowers. I'm gonna get these sown in the very edge part right here. I like to create like a sunflower wall. So easy. All I did was just put cardboard down, mulch, some soil, and the sunflowers will do the rest. They will exceed whatever I have put down, go right into the ground. And it's also really going to help with that creeping grass, because this is a new addition to the no-dig garden. It's going to start creating that root system that will make it harder for the grass to creep into that new garden. The next thing I want to get in the ground is my butternut squash and my gray zucchini. Now these are two things that have been tried and true and I really enjoy in my garden. As a Florida gardener, I will tell you, our climate is pretty hostile sometimes, to put it lightly. So although we get the super fantastic early spring, we also get an extraordinarily complicated summer, I would say, when it comes to the heat. What I have found so far after trying a few different types of winter squash over the years is the butternut squash fares really well, for whatever reason, per my experience. I'm sure other people could have different experience with that, so I'm going to plant these in the front and hope, and I also just love butternut squash, and hope that they do well. I also am going to rotate some of my crops and plant some zucchini out front too. Do not underestimate how much zucchini one zucchini plant's going to give you, as well as a successful butternut squash plant. All of these plants are big time producers. I wish I could store zucchini in a better way. If you guys have any suggestions, definitely let me know. I didn't plan where I was going to plant everything. I told myself, oh, you know, I'm just gonna go out here and plant a few seeds today and, you know, just whatever. As per usual, I always grab so many seeds, so many more seeds than I have room for, but we're gonna do our best. I'm gonna do my best trying to narrow it down. I'm gonna do some cantaloupe up there. Yeah, cantaloupe. My mom got me these little tags. I don't even think you can see it in the camera. That way when the ink inevitably goes away, you still can see what it is, but I don't know if I etched it hard enough. So we'll see. If worst comes to worst, my video will be the best like tag marker for me. Strategically, I planted my butternut squash and my cantaloupe towards the very edge of this no-dig garden. They are going to come in contact with the sunflowers, which is okay, but as they get to be too big, I'm going to just start like flopping them out into the grass. In the middle of the actual beds, I'm not going to plant any hugely binding things like watermelon or anything like that, because I don't want everything to just be like this whole overcrowded jumbled mess, which it already might be anyways. Instead, I'm going to do some garbanzo beans and some lime beans right there. So I feel like that's going to hopefully be a good amount of spacing. This area is fully planted out now, which is really, really exciting because now all we do is wait, of course, give it a little bit of water, but I am so happy to have those seeds in the ground. And my goal, remember, I don't know if you guys watched my last video, was to get this going before February 15th because last year I didn't get everything out into the garden until I think around March like 15th or March 20th, and it was pretty hot by then. I told myself, let's bring it back a month early so we can have a little head start. I wanted to show you guys, because of this expansion, we're gonna have another row of strawberries, and all the strawberry plants are so happy right now, with the exception of the Sweet Charlie. I don't really know what's going on with that. All of them have not come back from dormancy, but all the other plants have just immediately, like, these are less than a month old, just turned into these beautiful healthy plants. I have something super exciting to show you. It's, I think, been around 1 month, maybe less, and I got these as bare roots, the strawberries, and they're already starting to produce flowers and set fruit, which is mind-blowing to me. I'm hoping that we have a really successful strawberry patch because I have 2 little kids that come out here every single day, multiple times a day, and they do like a garden harvest and just munch and snack on all of the delightful things. So if there's strawberries out here, they're never going to want to leave the garden. So that's what this row is going to be. It's all going to be strawberries. That's our beans. And then we have some of the fun stuff that we just sewed together and sunflowers. I am planning on making a tomato patch in the same spot that I did last year. I know you should rotate your crops, and I still believe in that. However, I am just going to do it in the same spot as I did last year. What I'm doing differently this year from last year is I'm going to do cattle panel walls instead of the single string method. What happened was last year I really liked the single string method. It started out fantastic, and as the season progressed, it was just way too much for me to manage. And having such a sizable garden and so many responsibilities, having a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old, I just decided that I cannot do the single string method again this year. I didn't pick varieties that are meant for single string, and I truthfully don't typically do any type of pruning on my tomato plants, and I find that they're just fine. I just don't have the time for that. Maybe in a few years when my kids are older, I will have more time to, prune and do all that. So this year I'm going to install some cattle panel walls and just do tomatoes in the same area that I did last year. My tomato starts are not ready to put in today, but I just wanted to show you guys because you might be wondering, what's she doing? Where's her tomatoes gonna go? And then right here is going to be corn. This is a really huge bed. I think it's about like 15 feet long by 8 feet if I had to guess. I'm sure I'm off a little bit by that. I had a terrible time growing corn last year. So many of you were like, that's not gonna work, and you guys were right, it did not work. The place that I planted my corn, it looked like it'd be a good place to plant it, but it just did not get enough sun. Now I'm thinking this gets extremely full sun. It gets some of the last hours of sun touching it based on how like all my trees and everything are blocking the sun. This bed gets some of the most sun. So I'm going to revive it. It has a horrible issue with grass, honestly, and I'm going to get that going today. Not in this video, but I just wanted to tell you that this is where I'm going to be planting out my corn and my tomatoes. You might be wondering what I have here. This is a loofah that we grew last year. Once they started taking off, I just didn't really have to baby or worry about the loofahs. I have so many seeds from my loofah plant. These are homegrown, which is super cool. This year I told myself I want to plant my loofah plants on my cattle panel tunnel. So it's just a double cattle panel arch back to back because I really wanted a place that is going to be densely covered with lots of flowers and beautiful that I can, sit under when it's super hot. And loofahs just seriously thrive with the extreme heat. I'm gonna pull out these bok choy. We actually enjoyed them for a long time. I know it doesn't look like it because it's a whole plant, but we were picking off the little flowers for weeks. Every single time we came out here, my kids knew exactly where to find them, and we were eating them. So I don't know if you know, but you can eat these. These are edible. Now, the reason I'm getting rid of these plants is because they have suddenly started to change in flavor. They're getting a little bit of like that spicy bitterness because of the heat. So I'm just going to get rid of them because I need to get some new spring crops in. They're not going to go to waste. They will go to my chickens. Okay, now this is freeing up some sunlight for what I really want to plant here. Now on to one of my favorite crops to grow. I wish our climate was more sensitive so that it could accommodate this particular crop, because it does not thrive in the heat, the extreme heat, and that is cucumbers. So this is the best time of the year to grow your cucumbers, especially if you are in a more hostile climate like me. Definitely get your sensitive crops like this started right now. So the varieties I'm picking is the muncher cucumber. If you're a current subscriber, you know I always grow muncher cucumbers. Love them. The National Pickling did so well this last, I think it was like fall, when I did another round of cucumbers. That's right, because that's when all the hurricanes kept wiping out my cucumbers. So the National Pickling did really well in comparison to like the muncher and the other variety that I grew. They were so much more sensitive to any type of pest pressure, where the National Pickling was like, I'm doing all right. So I want to grow these again and hopefully pickle a bunch of cucumbers, get some pickles on my shelf. I've never grown the Ashley cucumber. This looked like just a regular standard cucumber. It says it's disease resistant, heat tolerant, and much less susceptible to powdery mildew. So that sounds like a winner to me. So I'm going to plant the muncher cucumber right here. Now I always try to plant a trellising option in my garden beds at the very edge of the garden. Now this is the best way to utilize all of the square footage of your garden bed, and just keep in mind you don't want to cover the sun from another crop. So if you're doing it in the very back, you're going to shade, you know, something that's behind it. So just keep that in mind. All right, I'm thinking right here we'll do the Ashley cucumbers. At the back, I've planted cucumbers here a lot, and they've always done really, really well. Just absolutely thrived. And it might be because there's a little bit less sun here, and they might get some easier relief from the heat. What to plant on my cattle panel arches? I always feel like it's a big decision, when really, I mean, I'm trying to switch it up to see what works best on these arches, because I haven't done historically well. Currently I have a volunteer tomato plant. That means I just found this little tomato plant in the garden. It had sprouted from a seed, just, you know, that fell on the ground. So it's a volunteer, and it is doing fantastic. I'm pretty sure, I don't know if this is the old German tomatoes. I don't remember. I mean, I don't know, because it just sprouted up from literally nowhere. But whatever it is, it's really happy. I also have a squash plant I planted months ago that has not started taking off until just now. So I'm really loving the vibe of like the tomato plant intertwined with the squash plant, because typically I try to just do like one crop per arch. And this year I'm like, you know, I'm gonna kind of mix it up. I really like that intertwined vibe. What I'm planting on the other side is the National Pickling cucumbers, because that's what I have left. So I think it'll be super cool to have tomatoes growing with some squash, I'm pretty sure it's sugar pie pumpkin, and cucumbers all on one arch. For the next arch, I'm gonna do also a mix. We're gonna blend it up. I'm gonna do the green beans, stringless, always do a stringless variety. Oh, Blue Lake on this side, and on this side, the blue shelling snow peas, because they just look so pretty. Now I'm fully aware, and if you're gonna consider growing peas right now, be aware that it may not be the most ideal time to grow peas for these warmer climates. Now, if you're in a much cooler climate, then go for it. But they do prefer cooler temperatures. So if I don't get these in the ground with these cooler nighttime temperatures right now, then there's going to be little to no opportunity to grow peas at all. So I got to get these in now. In my last arch back there, I'm going to plant some sugar baby watermelons. Now, I'm also going to try to plant these in a different part of my garden, just directly into the ground. But I had a really great experience growing these as a trellised option. One time, a few springs ago, I had so many sugar babies just like dripping all over the trellis. It was the coolest thing. So I'm gonna just do these only on that arch back there. I'm planting my candy roaster squash at the very opening trellis, and I'm not going to actually plant them in the beds because I plan on moving those beds within the next few days. So I'm just going to actually plant these directly in the ground and just see how it goes. I just want to check on my little sprouts, see what's going on. Nothing yet. Let's see what's hiding under. Nope, nothing under there. We have one more. I want to see if my tomatoes have sprouted. Now this is more likely that the tomatoes have sprouted. I've been keeping like a lid on them to protect them from any type of birds, my children messing with them, and to make it a little bit hotter. Nothing yet. Okay, so no tomato sprouts yet. I already have peppers from last season. I overwintered them. I just pulled them out of my big bed. Oh, where is that? Somewhere right over there. I just pulled them out of there, and they're actually doing really well because I do prefer peppers in pots. You know, I feel like that's really all they need to thrive. I've got to get to work on laying the foundation for a watermelon patch. Aside from the sugar baby watermelons, I want like an actual watermelon patch because watermelons grow really, really well, and pumpkins, in heavy mulch. And my mulch piles all the way at the front are going to turn into my next patches for those types of crops. That's why I love chip drop, because wherever the last chip drop, like once we're done kind of hacking away at it, that turns into a new extension of the garden. So I'm going to get that going, and then we also need to focus on the corn too. Otherwise, I feel so good about getting out here and getting all this done today. Most all my bases are covered. I already have kale on the ground. I've got Swiss chard. I have some crops that need to get out, like the my broccoli and other things, and that will in turn make room for like my beans, more beans and things like that. So thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. That is it for today, and until next time, bye.